Negating an algebraic fraction. In this presentation, we'll take a look at different ways in which we can negate an algebraic fraction. Now, we are just taking a look at the same fraction. It is given in a positive form. So we're just going to take a look at how we will negate the fraction. If we have a fraction, its negative may be formed in any of three ways. The first method that we are taking a look at is to apply the negative to the fraction as a whole. Now, if the negative is applied to the fraction as a whole, then the fraction is negated. So that is one way in which we can negate a fraction. If we have a fraction and we apply a negative sign to the fraction as a whole, then that will constitute negating that fraction. Another way is to apply the negative to the numerator. If we have a fraction, we apply a negative to the numerator, or we negate the numerator, then the fraction is also negated as a whole. The third and final way is to apply the negative sign to the denominator. Now, if we apply a negative sign to the denominator, then the fraction as a whole will also be negated. So, in order to negate a fraction, we may apply the negative sign to the entire fraction, to the numerator of the fraction, or to the denominator of the fraction. All of these will have the same effect, and the effect is that the fraction will be negated. The final one is the least recommended, but can be useful as an intermediate step. It is generally bad manners when applied to a final answer, but can be to the contrary when the denominator has a mixture of positive and negative terms. If you have a problem to solve and you present your answer with a negative denominator, then that is not such a good way to present a final answer. As a matter of fact, it would be better if you present your final answer like this one or this one, although they all mean the same. So these are the appropriate ways of presenting your answer if it is a fraction and if it is negative. So if you have an intermediate step that has a negative in the denominator and you are going to finish up the solution of the problem, rewrite this expression with the negative sign applied to the entire fraction or to the numerator. They will mean the same thing, but these are more appropriate. However, if you are solving a problem and you have a nice mixture of positive and negative signs in the denominator, then you can apply a negative sign in the denominator in order to change the appearance, to cause your result to be more visually friendly. You may make adjustments to those positive and negative signs in the denominator, and you may do that in any way you choose. But as a final answer, you should not present an answer that is the negative of a fraction with the negative sign in the denominator. Let us negate this fraction. So we have a fraction here to negate. Now we can negate this fraction in any of three ways. One, apply the negative sign to the fraction as a whole. Two, apply the negative sign to the numerator. And three, apply the negative sign to the denominator. And as we pointed out on the previous slide, it might be beneficial in an intermediate step to apply the negative sign to the denominator. And we will see that if we do it in this particular case, we can end up with an expression that looks pretty much the same. Not necessarily exactly the same, but pretty much the same. but its value is actually the negative of the one that we have there. So let us see what will happen if the negative is applied to the denominator. So let us apply the negative to the denominator. There we go. Now, what else might we do? Expand the brackets. So we will expand the brackets in the denominator. We know that the negative and this is a positive. So if we are multiplying a negative by a positive, the result is negative. So we will have a negative 3x there. For the other term, we have a negative multiplied by a negative, which results in a positive term. And another thing that we should avoid in mathematics is in a situation where we have a nice mixture of terms with their different signs, is to begin the expression with a negative sign. We do not generally do that. But I guess these days students do anything. But in the olden days, when we have a mixture of positive and negative terms, we always begin the expression with a positive term. So we will do this right here also. So rewrite the denominator leading out with the positive term. So all we did, exchange places with the positive and negative terms. As a matter of fact, you will realize that the negative term retains its sign, but the positive term is not accompanied by a positive sign. And we know that the positive sign is the default sign. Therefore, it is not necessary to show that a number is positive by accompanying it with a positive sign. With or without the positive sign, we know that this is still a positive 4. Now we might take a look at what we had before and what we have now and see that there's hardly any difference. So write the original expression again. That is what we are going to do to show that there's hardly any difference. So the original expression is written again. We notice that all that we have here is just an exchange in the position of the terms in the denominator. So the negative sign remains at the same spot. There is nothing different with the position of the signs. Well, we don't even consider what is happening in the numerator. But all that happens in the denominator, if you just look at what we had originally and what we had now, is that the terms exchange places. That's all. What will happen if the terms in the denominator switch places? So take the original, switch the places. What do you notice? We have the exact same thing here. Right. And we know that this is not magic, because we took a look from the very beginning that what we had is this. Apply a negative to the denominator. This term, we can take a look right here, that we multiply negative by positive. So this term will acquire a negative sign. This one, negative times negative, is positive. And in the end, we chose to place the positive sign first. This is what we have now. Right. So it is just a matter of exchanging places with the two terms. Right. So, and we know that it is not just magical, but it is also mathematical. They are exactly the same. This is a simple process when the first term is positive and the second term is negative. So if we have an expression that we need to negate, the first term is positive and the second term is negative. When we negate the expression, it will have the same effect as if we just switch the terms. That is all that we are displaying right here. So when we take this concept, or we may take this method, this mechanics, into the solution of other problems, then this is not going to be too strange to you, because you have an understanding of what takes place when we negate an expression with a positive term followed by a negative term that we multiply by the negative sign. So negative times positive will give you negative. Negative times negative will give you positive, and then we place the positive 1 at the beginning. So it is not magical, it is highly mathematical, but we just need you to be familiar with this process. For access to hundreds of free videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Richard James Mathematics Resources. For unlimited access to thousands of exclusive full-length videos, please subscribe to our Vimeo channel, Richard James Mathematics Resources.